Alright guys, what's happening? And welcome to the Action Channel. So today, let's talk about one of the greatest that ever lived in the world of martial arts movies. As far as I'm concerned, there are three masters: Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and of course, Jet Li. And today we're gonna talk about the movies of Jet Li and the 10 best martial arts films that this man has ever appeared in. Anyway guys, if you like this kind of content, martial arts movies, action movies, muscles, fitness, all that good stuff, please like and subscribe to the channel. Alright, now let's get into it. Alright, starting with movie number 10, The Warlords. Now this movie proved that Jet Li is not just a fast and badass martial artist, but he's also an excellent actor. The movie takes place in the 1860s, when civil rebellions rampaged through China during the Qing dynasty. It tells the story of three sworn brothers played by Jet Li, Andy Lau, and Takeshi Kaneshiro. Their brotherhood and friendship didn't end well as they disagreed on different matters, which led to multiple deaths. The Warlords won a total of 8 Hong Kong Film Awards, including Best Actor for Jet Li. Now, of course, there are a lot of old martial arts movies that takes place back in the day, but to see a more modern day period piece with great action, great acting, great filmmaking is absolutely pure joy. Next on the list, we have Last Hero in China from 1993. When this movie came out, you can definitely say that Jet Li was in his prime at around 30 years of age. And as you can see, the man's talents, his physique, and his martial arts skills certainly did not disappoint. Now what's interesting about Last Hero in China, Jet Li actually features a popular Chinese folk hero, Wang Fai Hong, who has been portrayed several times by both Jet Li and Jackie Chan. In this film, Wang Fai Hong dishes out as many laughs as he does punches when he opens up a martial arts school right next door to a brothel, and then becomes the target of a general who would rather see him hit the bricks than train new students. Now what makes this film one of Jet Li's finest is that it's actually a successful parody of the Once Upon a Time in China movies, from which the main premise is derived and twisted for comedy. Now of course we know that Jet Li is mostly known for serious martial arts roles, unlike Jackie Chan that sort of got involved with kung fu comedy. So you would think that maybe this would not be the best part for Jet Li. However, he's both very funny and good in it. So if this is a movie that you missed growing up, I suggest you check it out just for the heck of it. Number 8 on the list, we have The Legend, also from 1993. The early mid-90s was definitely a time for Jet Li where he put his mark on the genre. And this movie certainly did not disappoint. The Legend tells the story of a mischievous and ambitious young boy, Feng Sayuk, who's good with martial arts, but dull in his studies. This film combines comedy with a ton of over-the-top kung fu fight sequences and some very impressive wire work, which later on would become a staple of the Chinese martial arts scene. Now, a lot of hardcore Jet Li fans out there will definitely describe this as one of the man's finest. It went on to win a ton of Hong Kong Film Awards and the Golden Horse Award for Best Choreography in 1993, and soon after a sequel was in the works. Now before we move on, let's take a quick pause for the cause. Let me simply remind you that on this list, we only find Jet Li's finest martial arts films, not some of the other films that he's done. Because at this point he has done so many different films, including action and more dramatic roles. But since he's mostly known in the martial arts genre, and I know a lot of you guys watching are hardcore martial arts Jet Li fans, let's focus on what the man is best at. Good old-fashioned martial arts films. Okay, next we have Tai Chi Master. This film tells the story of two young boys who grew up in the same Shaolin temple and was trained by the same master. They later left the temple after a misunderstanding with one of the monks, each choosing radically different paths. In the film we also find Michelle Yeoh, or should we say, the queen of kung fu movies. The 1990s was a very interesting time for Asian martial arts cinema. We had several big stars, and it was also before CGI started to take over. So these guys had the opportunity to show all their skills. And yet, in my mind, I would say the movies looked so much better compared to the 1970s or early 80s, when they just had this extremely cheesy feel to it. Of course, Bruce Lee was definitely an exception. However, even the movies that he was in, if it wasn't for Bruce, would you honestly watch them? Well, probably not. And after the death of the legend in 1973, the rest of that decade, the film industry in Asia tried to come up with the next Bruce Lee, and yet nobody could pull it off. But by the 1980s and 90s, we had all these legendary martial arts actors like, yes, Jet Li, Jackie Chan, and Donnie Yen. So it was a good time for Asian martial arts cinema. And they simply kept spitting movies out left and right, and audiences just couldn't get enough. Now, do I really have to tell you the title of this film? Well, let's just say Fist of Legend is a 1994 remake of the 1972 film by Bruce Lee, Fist of Fury. Now guys, could you imagine what it would be like and the pressure you'd feel if you have to try to fill the shoes of Bruce Lee? Not an easy task. You would have to call up the best of the best. And that's why they called up Jet Li. The film tells the story of a young martial artist, Chen Shen, who went back to Shanghai from Japan to find his master dead and his school being harassed by the Japanese. Now, more than 2 decades after the original movie, Fist of Legend underscored the persisting problem of ultra-nationalism in Asian countries. Now, apart from being a loving tribute to one of Bruce Lee's finest and most foundational movies, it's also among some of Jet Li's best work. And it's also dealing with contemporary racial issues. Being a wushu master like Jet Li certainly doesn't hurt when you appear in a movie called Swordsman 2. In this film, the man had the opportunity to show off some of his fancy moves when dealing with swords and other weapons. It's no coincidence that this man got the part. Only a handful of people in the world could have played this role, and no one could have done it as well as Jet. The Bodyguard from Beijing. Jet Li plays a martial arts expert who's employed as a bodyguard to a powerful businessman's girlfriend, who is the sole witness to a murder. While trying to keep their relationship on a professional level and stay out of danger, the bodyguard and witness find themselves increasingly attracted to one another. Most of the critics said that this was a good Jet Li movie, action and romance. The action is incomparable. The shopping mall scene and especially the fighting scene in the end are simply too awesome to describe. You have to see it for yourself. This movie is simply a must if you are a Jet Li fan or a wushu action fan. Alright fellas, we got 3 movies left. From now on, it's all about golds and diamonds in the world of martial arts and action movies. Coming in at number 3, Once Upon a Time in China 2. The film takes place in 1895. Jet Li's character faces the White Lotus Society, which is a fanatic cult seeking to drive the Europeans out of China through violence, even attacking Chinese who follow Western ways. Jet Li must defend friends and loved ones, and the culture of China itself is at stake. Once again, he must pick up his martial arts skills to defend the innocent. This film also features a great fight scene between Donnie Yen and Jet Li. You can even argue and say if you don't like the movie, it's still worth watching due to the fight itself. It is extremely well choreographed and Donnie Yen almost lost his eye during the shooting of this fight scene. At the time when the movie came out, it was well received both by critics and the fans. However, over time it has turned out to be a classic in the world of martial arts cinema. And coming in at number 2, we have the movie Hero. This is an absolute visual and beautiful movie, a true masterpiece. It came out in 2002, just 2 years after Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Watching these movies were more like experiencing a spectacular event. This epic masterpiece takes place in ancient China. Jet Li plays an unnamed fighter who's being honored for defeating 3 of the king's most dangerous enemies. Now what makes this interesting is that one of Jet Li's opponents is played by Donnie Yen. And yes, they did have a fight 10 years earlier as mentioned in the movie Once Upon a Time in China 2. So this time around they wanted to top that. And the fight scene they did in this film is even more impressive than the previous one. Now, from what I understand, most of you guys watching on this channel are what I would consider super fans of the genre, martial arts and action films. However, for some strange reason, just in case you missed this one when it came out in the early 2000s, I highly recommend you go back and you check it out. It's one of those beautiful movies you just can't get enough of. Rotten Tomatoes described the movie with death-defying action sequences, an epic historic sweep. Hero offers everything a martial arts fan could ask for. And it received a score of 94%. Not bad at all. And coming in at number 1, we have Jet Li's Fearless from 2006. In the film, Jet Li plays a real-life martial arts legend that became the most famous fighter in all of China at the turn of the 20th century. However, his character faced personal tragedy, but ultimately fought his way out of darkness and into history, defining the true spirits of martial arts. The man's self-discovery and the choices that he made inspired an entire nation. He was the son of a great fighter who did not wish for his own son to follow his footsteps. However, fate wanted it differently. Jet Li's character goes through a journey of self-discovery, and he has a lot of ups and downs. In the end, he competes in a tournament in Shanghai, which puts him up against 4 fighters. He ends up fighting a British boxer, a Spanish swordsman, a Belgian soldier, and a Japanese martial artist. Now, what happened on this day in real life in 1910 has never been and will never be forgotten. When the movie came out, Jet Li said that this was going to be his very last martial arts film. At the time, he was 43 years old. However, he continued appearing in action movies many years to come, including, of course, in the Expendable movies, where he definitely has the chance to show off some of his moves. However, just 2 years after Fearless, he also appeared in the movie The Forbidden Kingdom opposite Jackie Chan. And if I'm not mistaken, that seemed like it was definitely a martial arts film. But what the hell, I'm not going to argue with the master. This film is definitely a true masterpiece. But what's really interesting here, and what a lot of fans of the movie really don't even know, is that in the director's cut, Fearless actually includes 2 key deleted scenes that add greatly to the film. So even though you're very familiar with the movie, I still think you should check out if you get the chance. In fact, the director's cut adds around 35 minutes back into the film, which is quite a bit. And it includes scenes that add more layers to Jet Li's character and the meaning of martial arts. Now, from a fan perspective, I would say Fearless itself is a great film. And it has the whole Bloodsport thing with the tournament where he has to fight a lot of different fighters, including guys that are attacking him with weapons left and right. So it's a very cool, fun and entertaining movie. And yet the story and the tragedy also add so many more layers to the film itself. Okay fellas, that should do it for now. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you want to see more videos like this, action movies, martial arts, you name it, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and I'll see you in the next video.